Autistic boy everyone ignored stops dad's wedding, bride's secret destroyed her. Once upon a time in a quiet suburb just outside Seattle, there lived a 13-year-old boy named Oliver. He was not like most boys his age. Oliver was calm, quiet, and always thinking. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it was something important. People said he was too serious for a child, too different, but Oliver didn't mind. His mind was always sharp. He noticed things others didn't. He could tell when someone was pretending, even if they smiled and laughed like everything was fine. Oliver had been diagnosed with autism when he was 6, but his father, Mr. Harrison Blackwell, never treated him like he was broken. Just different. Special, even. Oliver lived with his father in a large colonial-style house with tall gates and a garden full of lavender. His father was a tall man in his early 40s, strong and handsome, always smelling of expensive cologne and wearing tailored suits. People respected Mr. Blackwell. He owned a successful tech consulting firm and had worked hard to become wealthy after his wife, Oliver's mother, died 7 years ago in a car accident. Since then, it had just been the two of them, father and son, living quietly, taking care of each other. Oliver had his routines. Breakfast at 7:15 a.m. School from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. Homework at 4 o'clock. Dinner at 6:30. He liked predictability. He liked knowing what came next. But everything changed the day Mr. Blackwell brought a woman home. Oliver, his father said one Saturday morning, standing proudly at the entrance with a lady beside him, "Meet Vanessa." Oliver stood from the living room couch slowly. His eyes moved from his father to the lady who was now smiling brightly. She wore a tight red dress that showed too much skin, and her long eyelashes blinked rapidly as if she was trying too hard to look innocent. Her perfume was strong, too strong. It made Oliver's nose scrunch. "Hi, sweetie," she said, reaching out to touch his cheek. Oliver moved back slightly and gave a polite nod. His father had taught him to be polite, even when uncomfortable. "She's my fiancée," his father added, placing his arm around Vanessa's waist. "We're getting married in 3 weeks." The room suddenly felt smaller. Oliver didn't smile. He looked at his father, then at the woman again. Something in his chest tightened. The way she smiled didn't match her eyes. Her eyes were cold. "Nice to meet you," Oliver muttered. But it wasn't nice. Not even a little bit. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more incredible bridal confessions every week, hit that subscribe button and help us grow this channel. We're building a community of people who love real wedding drama and shocking reveals. Your support means everything. Now, let's get back to Oliver's story. Later that evening, Oliver sat on his bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above him. The house felt different. Vanessa was in the kitchen laughing loudly with his dad. Her voice didn't sound real. It was high and too cheerful, like she was forcing every sound out of her mouth. He closed his eyes, remembering the way she looked at him. There was something behind her smile, something calculating, like she didn't really care who he was, like he was just an obstacle. He picked up his tablet and began typing her name on social media. Vanessa Chin. But nothing serious came up. Just some filtered photos and fake smiles. No real information, no old friends commenting, no family posts. Just her. Why so hidden? Oliver whispered to himself. He stood up, walked to the hallway, and leaned near the kitchen wall. He could hear them talking. "I told you he'd warm up to you," Mr. Blackwell said. "He's a sweet boy," Vanessa replied, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "He just needs time." And honestly, Harrison, it must be exhausting raising an autistic child alone. "You've done so well." Oliver's jaw clenched. The way she said autistic made it sound like a disease, like something broken that needed fixing. That voice again. Sweet and fake, like syrup over something rotten. The next day, they went out together for lunch at an upscale restaurant downtown. Oliver sat quietly at the table, picking at his pasta while Vanessa laughed at all his dad's jokes. "Oh, Harrison, you're too funny." She giggled, placing her hand gently on his arm. Oliver looked up from his plate. Her eyes weren't on his dad. They were on the gold Rolex he wore. She stared at it just a little too long, her pupils dilating slightly, a micro-expression Oliver caught immediately. "Dad," Oliver said suddenly. "Can I talk to you?" His father looked surprised. "Now?" "Yes. Alone." They stepped outside the restaurant. Oliver waited until they were far enough from the windows before he spoke. "Why are you marrying her?" he asked, his voice flat but direct. His father sighed, running his hand through his hair. "Oliver, it's been 7 years since your mother passed. I've been alone. You've been without a mother figure. Vanessa brings joy back into this house. Isn't that what we need?" Oliver shook his head slowly, precisely. "No, Dad. That's not what I need. I don't trust her." "Oliver, come on. She's trying." "No, Dad. She's pretending. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Her pupils dilate when she looks at your watch. She asked you 3 questions about your company accounts at breakfast yesterday. Those aren't curiosity questions. Those are calculation questions." Mr. Blackwell frowned. "You're overthinking this. You always analyze everything too much." "That's what helps me see what others don't," Oliver replied, his voice steady. His father walked away, frustrated. "Go back inside, Oliver. I don't want to hear any more of this." For the next few days, Oliver said little but watched closely. Every move Vanessa made, he noticed. How she walked around the house when she thought no one was watching, running her fingers along furniture like she was measuring its value. How she checked his father's bank statements when he left his phone unattended. How she asked too many questions about the house deed and company ownership papers. Oliver started keeping a journal, documenting everything. He wrote down timestamps, quotes, behaviors. His therapist had taught him that writing things down helped him process the world, helped him make sense of patterns that others might dismiss as coincidence. But Oliver knew better. Patterns weren't coincidence. Patterns were evidence. One night, Oliver couldn't sleep. He went downstairs for water, walking carefully on the hardwood floors, his footsteps silent. But as he walked past the guest room where Vanessa was staying, he heard her voice. She was on the phone. Her voice was low, but Oliver's hearing was sharp. He'd always been sensitive to sounds. "Once he signs it, everything transfers to me," she whispered. "Yes, I've already prepared the documents. His lawyer won't even question it because I'll be his wife." Oliver froze. His heart rate increased. He leaned closer, pressing his ear near the door frame. "He'll sign it at the wedding reception. That's the only time his guard will be down. After that, it's done. The house, the company, everything. And the best part? He has no idea." Oliver's hands began to shake. He stepped back quietly, his mind racing. What documents? What was she planning? He tiptoed back to his room, shut the door softly, and sat on the bed with his eyes wide open. He grabbed his journal and wrote everything down, hands trembling. 2:47 a.m., Vanessa on phone. Mentioned documents. Plans to get Dad to sign at wedding. Wants house and company. This is fraud. The next morning, Oliver sat across the breakfast table from her. Vanessa smiled sweetly, pouring orange juice. "You slept well, Oliver?" "Yes," he answered, staring directly at her without blinking. She blinked first, then looked away. A tell. She was uncomfortable with direct eye contact when lying. When his father came down, Oliver tried again. "Dad, I need to talk to you. Please. It's important." But Mr. Blackwell was already late for a meeting. "We'll talk later, son," he said, kissing Vanessa's forehead. "I promise." Oliver felt a deep sickness in his stomach. His chest felt tight. He had to do something. He had to stop her. But how? That evening, Oliver went into his father's home office while nobody was around. He knew his father kept an old voice recorder in the desk drawer for recording business meetings. Oliver took it, tested it, and placed it carefully behind a bookshelf in the living room where Vanessa usually made her phone calls. He waited. Hours passed. Then finally, just after 10 p.m., she walked into the living room with her phone pressed to her ear. "I told you I'm handling it," she whispered, her voice sharp. "He won't even suspect. Once the wedding is done and he signs those papers, the house, the cars, the company shares, everything transfers to me." I said me, not us. Don't get greedy on me now, Marcus. Oliver's eyes widened from his position at the top of the stairs. Marcus. There was someone else involved. She was lying to multiple people. She continued, after I get control, I'll file for an emergency conservatorship. I'll claim he's mentally unstable, that he's not fit to manage his own affairs. With his autistic son as evidence of genetic mental issues, the court won't even question it. Oliver felt rage unlike anything he'd ever felt before. She was going to use his autism, as a weapon against his father. The next morning, Oliver played the recording to himself in his room, headphones on. The voice was crystal clear. He looked at the calendar on his wall. The wedding was in 4 days. 4 days. He had to stop it before it was too late. But if his father wouldn't believe him, then he needed more evidence. He needed to find out who Marcus was. He needed to build an undeniable case. One thing was now clear, he wasn't just trying to protect his father from heartbreak. He was trying to save his father's entire life. Oliver sat on his bedroom floor, surrounded by printouts, notes, and his tablet. He had created what his therapist called a visual map of evidence. Photos of Vanessa looking at his father's documents. Timestamps of her suspicious phone calls. Transcripts he'd painstakingly typed of the recordings. At the center of the map, he'd written one word in red marker: fraud. He stared at it for a long time, his mind working through possibilities like a chess game. If I show Dad now, she might convince him I edited the recordings. She'll cry. She'll say I'm jealous. She'll say I can't handle change because of my autism. That's what people always did. They dismissed him, assumed his different way of thinking meant he couldn't be trusted, couldn't understand social situations. But Oliver understood perfectly. He understood better than most people because he didn't rely on surface-level social cues that could be faked. He relied on patterns, on data, on evidence. The next night, Oliver didn't go to bed. He stayed awake, waiting. At 11:47 p.m., he heard her footsteps in the hallway. He cracked his door open slightly, watching as Vanessa entered the living room again. She sat down, phone in hand, and dialed. Marcus, stop calling me so much, she hissed into the phone. You're going to ruin everything. A pause. Then, yes, I know what we agreed. But plans change. I'm the one doing all the work here. I'm the one pretending to love this man and his weird kid. So when this is done, I'm taking 70%, not 50%. Non-negotiable. Another pause. Her voice got colder. Listen to me very carefully. If you threaten to back out now, I'll make sure you get nothing. I have texts, Marcus. I have recordings of you planning this with me. So you'll take your 30% and be grateful. Oliver's recorder was running. He'd placed it in a new location tonight, hidden inside a hollowed-out book on the shelf. Every word was being captured. She continued, the documents are ready. I had them drawn up by that lawyer friend of yours, the one who got disbarred. He did good work. They look completely legitimate. Harrison will sign them at the reception because I'll tell him they're just standard marriage asset protection forms. He trusts me completely. She laughed, a cold sound that made Oliver's skin crawl. The best part? Once I have control of everything, I'll suggest we put Oliver in a specialized facility. Harrison will probably agree because he'll think it's for the boy's own good. Then it'll just be me, in this beautiful house, with all his money. And Marcus, you'll get your cut and then we're done. We never speak again. Oliver felt sick. She was planning to institutionalize him. To take everything from his father and lock Oliver away somewhere. The call ended. Vanessa stood up, stretched, and walked past Oliver's hiding spot without noticing the crack in his door. He waited until her footsteps faded, then quietly retrieved the recorder. Back in his room, Oliver listened to the entire recording 3 times. Then he did something his therapist had taught him for moments of overwhelming emotion. He wrote down exactly how he felt. I am angry. I am scared. I am determined. This woman wants to hurt my dad. She wants to hurt me. But I have evidence now. I have proof. I won't let her win. He looked at his evidence board, at the growing collection of proof, and made a decision. He couldn't wait anymore. The wedding was in 3 days. Tomorrow, he would approach the one person who might actually listen, his father's lawyer, Mr. Richard Chin. The next morning, Oliver did something he rarely did. He skipped his routine. Instead of going to school, he took the bus downtown to the law office where Mr. Chin worked. Richard Chin had been his father's attorney for 15 years. Oliver had met him several times at family gatherings. Mr. Chin had always been kind to Oliver, never talked down to him, never treated him like he couldn't understand complex things. Oliver walked into the sleek glass building and took the elevator to the 14th floor. The receptionist looked surprised to see a teenage boy walk in alone. "Can I help you?" "I need to see Mr. Richard Chin. It's urgent." "It's about my father, Harrison Blackwell." The receptionist made a phone call, spoke quietly, then nodded. "He'll see you. Third door on the left." Oliver walked down the hallway, his sneakers quiet on the carpeted floor. He knocked once. "Come in," a voice called. Mr. Chin looked up from his desk, surprise and concern crossing his face. "Oliver? What are you doing here? Does your father know you're here?" "No, sir. But I need your help. My dad is in danger, and no one believes me because I'm autistic and people think that means I don't understand things." Mr. Chen's expression shifted immediately to serious attention. He gestured to a chair. "Sit down. Tell me everything." Oliver sat, pulled out his tablet, and began explaining. He showed Mr. Chin the recordings, the timeline, the evidence board photos. He explained Vanessa's plan to forge documents, to claim conservatorship, to institutionalize him. As Oliver talked, Mr. Chen's face grew darker and darker with anger. When Oliver finished, there was a long silence. Then Mr. Chin said, "Oliver, this is fraud. This is elder abuse. This is conspiracy. If what you're showing me is accurate, your father is about to be robbed of everything he owns." "It's accurate, sir. I don't lie. I can't lie very well. My brain doesn't work that way." Mr. Chin almost smiled. "That's actually an advantage right now. Oliver, I believe you. And we're going to stop this. But I need you to trust me to handle this carefully. Can you do that?" Oliver nodded. "What do we do?" "First, I'm going to verify some of these details. Then I'm going to contact someone I know at the FBI who specializes in financial fraud. This isn't just a wedding we're stopping, Oliver. This is a federal crime being prevented." For the first time in days, Oliver felt the tight feeling in his chest loosen slightly. Someone believed him. Over the next 2 days, Mr. Chin worked quickly. He verified that the Marcus in Vanessa's phone calls was Marcus Delgado, a known con artist with a history of targeting wealthy men through romantic scams. He discovered that the disbarred lawyer was actually still practicing illegally, creating fraudulent documents for criminals. And he confirmed that the documents Vanessa had prepared were indeed designed to transfer all of Harrison Blackwell's assets to her upon signing. Mr. Chin also contacted FBI Special Agent Sarah Martinez, who had been tracking Marcus Delgado for months as part of a larger fraud investigation. When she heard about Vanessa's plan, she immediately opened a case. "We need to catch them in the act," Agent Martinez told Mr. Chin and Oliver in a meeting at the law office. "If we move too early, they'll claim it was all a misunderstanding, that the documents were legitimate, that Oliver misheard things." Oliver spoke up, his voice steady. "So we let the wedding happen?" "Not exactly," Agent Martinez said, looking at him with respect. "We let them think the wedding is happening. But we'll have agents there undercover. And Oliver, when the moment comes for your father to sign those documents, that's when you speak up. In front of everyone. With us there as witnesses." Oliver's stomach flipped. "You want me to stop the wedding? In front of everyone?" "I know it's scary," Agent Martinez said gently. "I know you don't like being the center of attention. But you're the only one who can do this, Oliver. You're the one who discovered everything. You're the one who protected your father. And your voice is the one that matters most." Oliver thought about his mother, about how she used to tell him that his different way of seeing the world was a gift, not a disability. "My mind sees patterns," he said quietly. "I'll do it." The day before the wedding, the house was chaos. Event planners rushing around, florists arranging massive displays, caterers setting up tasting stations. Oliver stayed in his room mostly, but he watched everything. He saw Vanessa directing workers, playing the role of excited bride perfectly. He saw his father, happy and oblivious, talking about their honeymoon plans. That evening, Vanessa knocked on Oliver's door. He opened it slowly. She smiled, but it was tight, controlled. "Oliver, can we talk?" He stepped aside, letting her in. She sat on his desk chair, looking around his room. "I know you, and I haven't exactly bonded," she began, her voice carefully modulated. "But I want you to know that after the wedding, things are going to be different. Better. I've been looking into some wonderful schools for kids like you. Special programs where you'd get the attention you need." Oliver's blood ran cold, but his face remained neutral. "Schools. Yes," she continued. "Residential programs. Where you'd be with other autistic children. You'd probably be much happier there, don't you think? Instead of struggling here, trying to fit in." "I don't struggle," Oliver said flatly. "And I don't want to go anywhere." Vanessa's smile thinned. "Well, that's something your father and I will discuss after we're married. I'm going to be your stepmother, Oliver. That means I have a say in what's best for you." "My mother is dead," Oliver said, his voice hard. "You're just someone trying to steal from my dad." Vanessa's mask cracked for just a second. Anger flashed in her eyes. Then she laughed, forced and harsh. "You're a child with an overactive imagination. No one believes the paranoid fantasies of an autistic teenager, Oliver. You should know that by now." She stood up and walked to the door. "Tomorrow's going to be a beautiful day. Try not to ruin it with one of your episodes." After she left, Oliver sat on his bed, shaking. Not from fear, but from rage. She had just threatened him, dismissed him, tried to use his autism as a weapon against his credibility. But what she didn't know was that everything she'd just said had been recorded. Oliver had set up his tablet on his bookshelf before letting her in, camera facing the room, recording everything. He uploaded the video to the cloud immediately, adding it to his evidence file. Tomorrow, the world would see who Vanessa Chen really was. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. Clear blue skies, gentle breeze, birds chirping. The backyard had been transformed into something from a magazine. White chairs arranged in neat rows, a flower-covered arch at the front, string lights ready to twinkle as evening fell. Guests began arriving at 4 p.m. Friends, business associates, distant relatives. Everyone dressed in their finest, carrying wrapped gifts, smiling and chattering. Oliver stood at his bedroom window, watching it all. He wore the suit his father had bought him for the occasion. Dark blue, crisp white shirt, a tie that felt too tight around his neck. He adjusted it repeatedly, a self-soothing motion. His tablet was charged fully, loaded with every piece of evidence. In his pocket was a small USB drive with backup copies. Agent Martinez and 3 other FBI agents were already in the crowd, dressed as guests. Mr. Chen sat in the 3rd row, giving Oliver a subtle nod when their eyes met. At 5 p.m., the music started. "Here Comes the Bride" played through expensive speakers. Guests stood. Oliver stood too, in his assigned place as his father's best man. He watched his father take his place at the altar, looking happier than Oliver had seen him in years. And then Vanessa appeared. She wore a white dress that must have cost thousands, her hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless. She walked down the aisle slowly, smiling at guests, playing her role perfectly. Oliver's hands clenched into fists. The ceremony began. The officiant, a friend of his father's, spoke about love and partnership and blending families. Oliver barely heard it. His focus was entirely on Vanessa, on his father, on the moment that was coming. "If anyone here has any reason these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace," the officiant said with a smile, expecting silence. Oliver's heart pounded. Not yet. Not yet. The ceremony continued. The vows were exchanged. His father's voice thick with emotion, Vanessa's perfectly practiced. Then came the rings. And then, the moment Oliver had been waiting for. Vanessa turned to someone in the front row, one of her friends, who handed her an elegant folder. "Before we're officially pronounced husband and wife," Vanessa said, her voice sweet, "I'd like Harrison to sign these papers. They're just standard asset protection documents, making sure we're both protected and secure in our marriage." She handed the folder to Harrison, along with a pen. Oliver saw his father start to open it, saw him reaching for the pen. "Dad, stop." Oliver's voice cut through the moment like a knife. Every head turned. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Harrison Blackwell looked at his son in shock. "Oliver? What are you doing?" Oliver stepped forward from his position, his hands shaking but his voice steady. "Don't sign those papers, Dad. They're fake. They're designed to steal everything from you." Vanessa laughed, a tinkling sound full of practiced innocence. "Oliver, sweetheart, not now. This isn't the time for one of your, I'm not having an episode," Oliver interrupted, his voice sharper than he'd ever used before. "I have evidence. I have recordings. I have proof that you're a fraud, Vanessa. That you're working with a con artist named Marcus Delgado to steal Dad's money, his company, his house. Everything." The crowd murmured, louder now. Harrison looked between his son and his almost wife, confusion and rising alarm on his face. "Oliver, these are serious accusations, I know," Oliver said. He pulled out his tablet. "I can prove it. I recorded her phone calls. She admitted everything. She's planning to forge a conservatorship after you sign those documents, claim you're not mentally competent, and use me, use my autism, as evidence that mental illness runs in our family." Vanessa's face went pale, then flushed red. "This is ridiculous. Harrison, your son is having a mental breakdown. He's been jealous from the start, unable to accept change, play it." A voice called from the crowd. Agent Martinez stood up, badge in hand. "I'm FBI Special Agent Sarah Martinez. I suggest you play whatever evidence you have, young man." Oliver's hands shook as he connected his tablet to the speaker system, something Mr. Chin had arranged in advance. Then Vanessa's voice filled the backyard. "Once he signs it, everything transfers to me. Yes, I've already prepared the documents. His lawyer won't even question it because I'll be his wife." The crowd went silent. Dead silent. Another clip played. "I'm taking 70%, not 50. I'm the one pretending to love this man and his weird kid." Another. "I'll suggest we put Oliver in a specialized facility. Harrison will probably agree because he'll think it's for the boy's own good." Harrison Blackwell's face had gone white as paper. He looked at Vanessa, who was backing away slowly. "Vanessa? Is this true?" She opened her mouth, closed it, tried to smile. "Baby, I can explain. This is taken out of context." "Context?" Oliver stepped forward, pulling up another file on his tablet. "How about the context of you planning this with Marcus Delgado, a known con artist? Or the context of the forged documents you were about to have Dad sign? Or the context of you calling me weird and planning to institutionalize me?" Agent Martinez moved forward, two other agents flanking her. "Vanessa Chin, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted theft, and elder abuse." "No." Vanessa suddenly ran, pushing through guests in her wedding dress, heels clicking frantically on the stone pathway. But she didn't get far. Two more agents blocked her path. Within seconds, she was in handcuffs screaming. "He's lying. The kid is autistic. He doesn't understand what he heard. He's making it all up. Harrison, tell them." But Harrison wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at Oliver, his son, the boy everyone underestimated, who had just saved him from complete ruin. The agents led Vanessa away, still screaming, her white dress dragging through the dirt. The crowd stood in stunned silence until someone started clapping. Then another person. Then everyone was applauding, standing, looking at Oliver with amazement and respect. We're halfway through Oliver's incredible story of courage and intelligence. If you're loving this and want to see more wedding stories where the truth comes out at the most dramatic moments, smash that like button and subscribe to Bridal Confessions. Drop a comment telling us what you think of Oliver's bravery. Now, let's continue. Harrison walked slowly to his son, his eyes wet with tears. "Oliver, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. I thought you were just struggling with change, with me moving on from your mother. I'm so sorry." Oliver looked up at his father. "I tried to tell you. But it's okay. I understand. She was good at pretending. That's what con artists do. They exploit social expectations. They know most people don't look deeper than surface behavior. But you did, Harrison said, pulling Oliver into a tight hug. You saw what I couldn't. You protected me. You saved us. Oliver hugged back, something he rarely initiated, but this felt right. That's what sons do, Dad. We protect our fathers. The guests began leaving slowly, still in shock, whispering among themselves. Mr. Chen approached them, smiling. Oliver, you did an incredible job. I'm very proud of you. Agent Martinez joined them. We've been tracking Marcus Delgado for 8 months. Thanks to your evidence, Oliver, we now have everything we need to arrest him too. You didn't just save your father. You helped us take down an entire fraud operation. Oliver nodded, processing this. Will there be a trial? Yes, Agent Martinez said. And you'll probably have to testify. But don't worry. We'll make sure you're supported through the whole process. That night, after all the guests had left and the event staff had cleaned up the elaborate decorations, Harrison and Oliver sat together in the living room. The house felt quiet again, peaceful. I ordered pizza, Harrison said. I know it's not dinner time yet according to your schedule, but I thought maybe tonight we could break routine. Oliver considered this. Routines were important to him, gave him structure and predictability. But sometimes, he was learning, breaking routine for a good reason was okay. Pizza sounds good, he said. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Harrison spoke. Oliver, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. Your autism isn't something that makes you less reliable or less credible. It's actually what helped you see the truth when I was blind to it. Your attention to detail, your pattern recognition, your honesty, those aren't bugs in your system. They're features. Oliver looked at his father, surprised. Vanessa said no one believes autistic teenagers. Vanessa was wrong about a lot of things, Harrison said firmly. I believe you. And after today, I think a lot of people are going to start taking your observations a lot more seriously. Including me. Over the next few days, the story exploded in local news. Autistic teen stops father's wedding, exposes elaborate fraud scheme, the headlines read. Oliver found himself somewhat famous, though he didn't particularly like the attention. News crews wanted interviews. His school principal called to congratulate him. Even some of his classmates who usually ignored him suddenly wanted to be his friend. But the most important development came 1 week after the wedding. Agent Martinez called to inform them that Marcus Delgado had been arrested in Nevada, trying to board a flight to Mexico. In his possession were fake IDs and over $200,000 in cash from previous scams. The evidence you collected, Oliver, was crucial in getting the warrant for his arrest, Agent Martinez explained over speakerphone in Mr. Chen's office. We've now connected Vanessa and Marcus to at least 6 other fraud cases involving wealthy widowers. You didn't just save your father. You've helped us get justice for multiple victims. Oliver processed this information carefully. So she's done this before? This wasn't her first time. No, Agent Martinez confirmed. Vanessa Chen isn't even her real name. She's actually Vanessa Rodriguez, and she has a criminal record going back 10 years. Identity theft, credit card fraud, forgery. She and Marcus have been running this specific wedding scam for 3 years. Your father would have been victim number 7. Harrison's hands clenched on his desk. How did I not see it? How was I so blind? You weren't blind, Mr. Chen said gently. You were lonely and hopeful. That's not a character flaw, Harrison. That's being human. These people are professionals. They know exactly how to exploit emotions. But Oliver saw through it immediately, Harrison said. From day one, he knew something was wrong. Agent Martinez spoke up. Mr. Blackwell, if I may, Oliver saw through it because his brain works differently than yours. He's not clouded by social expectations or the desire to believe the best in people. He processes information more objectively. That's a tremendous gift, especially in situations like this. Oliver felt something warm in his chest. People were talking about his autism as a gift, not a disability or a problem to be solved. That evening, Harrison made a decision. He called a family meeting, which was just the 2 of them sitting at the kitchen table with hot chocolate. Oliver, I want you to know that I'm going to make some changes. First, I'm going to listen to you more. Really listen. Not just hear your words, but trust your observations, especially about people. Okay, Oliver said, wrapping his hands around his mug, enjoying the warmth. Second, I'm going to go to therapy. Not because something's wrong with me, but because I clearly have some blind spots when it comes to relationships and trust. I need to work on that. That's good, Dad. And third, Harrison continued, I'm taking a break from dating. For a long time. Maybe a year, maybe more. I'm going to focus on us, on being your dad, on appreciating what I have instead of looking for what I think I'm missing. Oliver nodded. I'd like that. I like it when it's just us. Me too, son. Me too. The trial came 3 months later. Oliver had to testify, which terrified him. Courtrooms were loud, unpredictable, full of social rules he didn't fully understand. But Mr. Chin and a court advocate worked with him to prepare. On the day he testified, Oliver wore noise-canceling headphones until it was his turn. When his name was called, he walked to the witness stand, his hands shaking but his mind clear. The prosecutor was gentle with him. Oliver, can you tell the court how you first became suspicious of Ms. Rodriguez? Oliver took a breath. Her micro-expressions didn't match her words. When she smiled, the muscles around her eyes didn't contract the way they do with genuine happiness. That's called a Duchenne smile, and hers was fake. Also, her pupils dilated when she looked at my father's expensive possessions, indicating interest and arousal not related to emotional connection, but to material gain. The courtroom was silent, hanging on every word. She asked questions about our finances that seemed inappropriate for someone who claimed to just want love. She isolated my father from his normal routines and support systems. She tried to undermine my credibility by repeatedly referencing my autism as if it made me unreliable. And she made phone calls late at night discussing fraud, which I recorded. The prosecutor nodded. And why did you record those conversations? Because I knew no one would believe me without proof, Oliver said simply. People often dismiss what I say because I'm young and autistic. I knew I needed evidence that couldn't be disputed. The defense attorney tried to shake Oliver's testimony during cross-examination, suggesting he had misunderstood what he heard, that he was jealous and made things up. But Oliver remained calm, citing exact dates, times, and quotes from the recordings. He explained the technical specifications of the recording device. He walked through his evidence board methodology. The defense attorney paced slowly in front of the jury box, hands clasped behind his back. He didn't look at Oliver at first. Instead, he sighed softly, the way adults do when they want to appear patient. So, he said at last, turning around, you're saying you recorded private conversations without permission. Oliver blinked once. Yes. And you hid recording devices around the house. Yes. The attorney nodded, as if confirming something he already believed. Isn't it true, Oliver, that you have a tendency to fixate on things? A murmur passed through the courtroom. I focus deeply, Oliver corrected. That's different from fixation. But you do hyperfocus, correct? The attorney pressed. That's a clinical term associated with autism. Oliver hesitated for a fraction of a second. Yes. So when you believe something is wrong, you can become consumed by it. I become thorough, Oliver replied. Because details matter. The attorney smiled faintly and turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing testimony from a 13-year-old boy who admits to secretly recording adults, creating elaborate charts, and obsessing over perceived threats. A boy who has been diagnosed with autism. A boy who openly admits he struggles with social cues. He turned back to Oliver suddenly. Isn't it possible you misunderstood what Ms. Rodriguez was saying? No. No, the attorney raised his eyebrows. That's very confident. I didn't misunderstand, Oliver said calmly. I transcribed her words verbatim. I can repeat them if you'd like. A few jurors shifted in their seats. But language can be tricky, the attorney continued. Tone, sarcasm, exaggeration. These things can be misread. Especially by someone who struggles with social nuance. Oliver's fingers curled slightly against the wooden edge of the witness stand. He felt the lights overhead. The whispering. The scrape of shoes on the floor. I don't struggle with patterns, he said. And I don't struggle with recorded audio. The attorney chuckled softly, as if amused. Let's talk about your relationship with your father. You were very close, weren't you? Yes. And when he introduced Ms. Rodriguez, things changed. Yes, you didn't like her from the beginning. I noticed inconsistencies, Oliver said. That's not the same as dislike. But you felt threatened, didn't you? The attorney asked. Your routine changed. Your father's attention shifted. Isn't it possible you felt replaced? Oliver swallowed. No, he said. I felt concerned. Concerned enough to sabotage his wedding? Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Harrison Blackwell stiffened in his seat. Objection, Mr. Chin said immediately. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said sharply. Rephrase. The defense attorney nodded. Isn't it true, Oliver, that stopping the wedding restored your father's attention to you? Oliver looked down for a moment. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because the question hurt. My father never stopped paying attention to me, he said quietly. But Ms. Rodriguez was trying to isolate him. That's a common tactic in fraud cases. Oh, the attorney leaned forward. Where did you learn that? From reading, Oliver replied. Court records. FBI case summaries. Victim testimonies. At 13. Yes. The attorney straightened, his tone sharpening. Oliver, do you understand that accusing someone of crimes is serious? Yes. And you understand that if you're wrong, this woman's life is ruined. Yes. Yet you still felt entitled to act as investigator, prosecutor, and judge. I felt responsible, Oliver said. Because no one else was listening. The attorney turned abruptly toward Harrison. Mr. Blackwell, may I ask you a question? Mr. Chin stood. He's not on the stand. I'll wait, the attorney said, then turned back to Oliver. One more thing. You said Ms. Rodriguez planned to institutionalize you. That's a very serious accusation. It's recorded, Oliver said. But she never said the word institution, did she? The attorney pressed. She said schools. Programs. Isn't that true? She said residential facilities, Oliver replied. And she discussed removing me from my home permanently. The attorney spread his hands. Or she could have meant specialized education. Support. Oliver's voice tightened, just slightly. She said my father would agree because he'd think it was for the boy's own good. She said I was weird. Those were her words. Still, the attorney said smoothly, isn't it possible she misspoke? No. Why are you so sure? Oliver lifted his head and looked directly at the jury. Because when people plan crimes, he said, they speak differently than when they joke. Their language becomes precise, goal-oriented. She used conditional timelines. She referenced legal mechanisms. She named percentages. That's not casual conversation. Silence. The attorney's jaw tightened. He circled once more, then stopped. Oliver, he said, lowering his voice, do you want your father all to yourself? Oliver's chest tightened. He felt heat rising behind his eyes, not tears, but overload. Too many sounds. Too many faces. He took a breath. Counted silently. 1, 2, 3. I want my father safe, he said. And alive. And not robbed. The attorney stared at him for a long moment. No further questions, he said finally, returning to his seat. A low hum filled the courtroom as people shifted, whispered, exhaled. The judge leaned forward. You may step down for now, Oliver. As Oliver walked back to his seat, his legs felt heavy. Harrison reached out instinctively, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. Oliver didn't pull away. For the first time, Harrison truly understood the cost of what Oliver had done. Not bravery. Exposure. And the trial was far from over. The courtroom felt heavier after Oliver sat down. Not louder. Heavier. As if the air itself had thickened with everything that had just been said out loud. Harrison Blackwell couldn't stop looking at his son. Not with pride alone, but with a quiet horror. Because for the first time, he realized Oliver hadn't just been brave. He had been alone. The defense attorney stood again, smoothing his suit jacket as if resetting himself. The defense calls Vanessa Rodriguez to the stand. A murmur rippled through the room. Vanessa walked forward slowly. No white dress now. No perfect hair. She wore a gray blouse and slacks, her face carefully neutral. She avoided looking at Oliver as she took her seat. She placed her hand on the Bible. Swore the oath. Saturday. The defense attorney's tone softened immediately. Ms. Rodriguez, you loved Mr. Blackwell, didn't you? Yes, she said quietly. Very much. And you intended to marry him? Yes. Did you ever intend to steal from him? No. Did you ever intend to harm his son? Her eyes flicked, just once, toward Oliver. Of course not. She dabbed at the corner of her eye. I tried to be kind to Oliver. But he never accepted me. Harrison's jaw tightened. He watched me, Vanessa continued. Recorded me. Treated me like a criminal from day one. The defense attorney nodded sympathetically. And how did that make you feel? Unsafe, she said. Targeted. The word hung there. Targeted. And when you discussed documents with your friend Marcus, the attorney went on, those were, what? Prenuptial discussions, Vanessa said smoothly. Asset planning. Completely legal. The attorney turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, wealth brings complexity. Conversations about money can sound cold when taken out of context. Mr. Chen stood. Cross-examination. He approached slowly, placing a folder on the podium. Ms. Rodriguez, he said calmly, you testified that you loved Mr. Blackwell. Yes. Can you explain why, 3 weeks before the wedding, you opened an offshore account in the Cayman Islands? Vanessa blinked. I don't know what you're referring to. Mr. Chen opened the folder. This account. Opened under the name Vanessa Chen. Funded with a $50,000 transfer from a shell company linked to Marcus Delgado. Her lips parted slightly. Is Marcus Delgado your business partner? Mr. Chen asked. He's an acquaintance. Your fiancé didn't know him. No. Yet you discussed profit splits with him? That recording was manipulated. Mr. Chen nodded. Let's talk about recordings. You claim Oliver misunderstood you. Yes. Mr. Chen pressed a button. Vanessa's voice filled the courtroom again. I'm taking 70%, not 50. Mr. Chen looked at her. 70% of what, Ms. Rodriguez? Silence. Love, he pressed gently. Or assets. Vanessa swallowed. And this, Mr. Chen continued, playing another clip. Once I have control, I'll suggest we put Oliver in a specialized facility. Mr. Chen turned slightly, gesturing toward Oliver without looking at him. Is that maternal concern? Vanessa's voice wavered. I was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed enough to contact a disbarred attorney? I didn't know he was disbarred. Mr. Chen slid another document forward. You paid him in cash. Vanessa's composure cracked, not dramatically, but subtly. Her shoulders tensed. And finally, Mr. Chen said, voice firm now, you testified that Oliver made you feel unsafe. Yes. Mr. Chen leaned in. Ms. Rodriguez, did you ever once ask for help? From Mr. Blackwell? From authorities? Or did you only speak in whispers late at night when you thought no one was listening? Vanessa's mouth opened. Closed. No further questions. The courtroom buzzed again, this time louder. The judge called for order. From his seat, Oliver felt something shift. Not relief. Not victory. But momentum. During the recess, Harrison sat beside his son, hands clasped tightly. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have protected you. Oliver nodded, eyes fixed ahead. You didn't have all the data. The prosecutor rose after recess. The prosecution calls Special Agent Sarah Martinez. Agent Martinez's testimony was methodical. Calm. Devastating. She laid out timelines. Financial flows. Previous victims. Similar wedding scams across 3 states. This was not an emotional misunderstanding, she said. It was a structured fraud operation. She glanced briefly at Oliver. The defendant underestimated one variable. What variable? The prosecutor asked. A child who noticed patterns. A few jurors smiled faintly. The defense objected. Overruled. As the day wore on, Oliver felt the weight of it pressing against him. The lights. The murmurs. The constant shifting of emotional ground. His head throbbed. At one point, he covered his ears briefly, then lowered his hands again. Harrison noticed. So did the judge. Court adjourned early that day. As they left, reporters waited outside. Cameras flashed. Harrison instinctively placed himself between Oliver and the crowd. That night, Oliver sat on his bed, staring at his evidence board again. The red word fraud felt less like an accusation now, and more like a confirmed diagnosis. But the trial wasn't over. And neither was the cost. Outside the courthouse, the air felt sharper, colder. Oliver flinched slightly at the sound of camera shutters snapping too fast, too loud. Harrison kept one arm firmly around his son's shoulders, guiding him toward the car like a shield. "Mr. Blackwell, is it true your son exposed a criminal ring?" "Oliver, how does it feel to stop a wedding? Did autism help you see what others couldn't?" The questions blurred together. Oliver stared at the pavement, counting his steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. He focused on the rhythm of his shoes against the concrete. That helped ground him. Inside the car, the door shut with a dull thud. Silence followed. Harrison didn't start the engine right away. "I didn't realize how loud the world is for you," he said quietly. Oliver shrugged. "It's always loud. I just usually prepare." At home, the house felt different again. Not tense like before, but exposed. As if too many strangers had suddenly been invited into something private. That evening, Oliver didn't touch his dinner. His stomach felt tight, knotted. His therapist called it delayed overload, the kind that hits after the danger has passed. Harrison noticed immediately. "You don't have to talk," he said gently. "We can just sit." So they did. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, the TV off, the lavender scent drifting in through the open window. Oliver rocked slightly, barely noticeable, a self-soothing motion he'd learned not to suppress at home. The next day, school became something else entirely. Whispers followed him down the hallway. "That's him. The wedding kid. He recorded his stepmom. Isn't he autistic?" Some students stared. Others avoided eye contact. A few smiled awkwardly, like they weren't sure what the correct reaction was. In English class, his teacher paused mid-lecture. "Oliver," she said, voice too careful, "if you need extra time or accommodations right now." "I'm fine," Oliver said. He wasn't lying. Not exactly. But fine was easier than explaining the constant buzzing under his skin. At lunch, someone sat next to him. A boy from math class. "That was kind of amazing," the boy said. "What you did?" Oliver nodded once. "It was necessary." The boy laughed nervously. "Yeah. Still. Respect." It was the first time anyone at school had said that to him without pity in their voice. Not everyone was kind. An anonymous message appeared in his school inbox that afternoon. "Kids like you shouldn't meddle in adult relationships." Oliver deleted it without responding. He logged it mentally. Pattern recognized. At home, Harrison began receiving calls from work. His company's board wanted reassurance. Investors wanted statements. Friends wanted explanations. Each call chipped away at him. That night, Harrison sat at the kitchen table long after Oliver had gone to bed. His head was in his hands. "I almost signed everything away," he whispered to the empty room. "And I almost lost my son." Upstairs, Oliver lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan again. Same fan. Same rotation. But everything else felt altered. He thought about the courtroom. About how the defense attorney looked at him, not with anger, but calculation. Like he was something to be dismantled. He wrote in his journal, "Being right doesn't feel good. It just feels heavy." The following days blurred together. More testimony. More headlines. More opinions from people who had never met him. Some praised him as a hero. Others questioned his motives. A few suggested his autism made him uniquely suited to surveillance, as if that excused what had been done to him emotionally. During one interview request, Harrison finally snapped. "My son is not a headline," he said into the phone. "He's a child." After that, he stopped answering calls. On the morning of the final week of trial, Oliver sat in the car again, hands pressed flat against his thighs. "Do you want to go today?" Harrison asked softly. "Yes," Oliver said after a pause. "If I don't, it feels like she still has control." Harrison nodded. "Then we'll go." Back in the courtroom, Oliver noticed something new. Vanessa no longer looked confident. Her posture had collapsed inward. Her eyes darted. She whispered constantly to her attorney. Marcus Delgado sat 2 rows behind her now, separated, guarded. He hadn't looked at her once. Oliver recognized the pattern. The alliance was breaking. But even as the case turned, Oliver felt the toll in his body. His head ached constantly. Sounds felt sharper. Lights harsher. He wore noise-canceling earbuds during breaks now, something he'd once been embarrassed to do in public. He no longer cared. On the stand again, a former victim testified, a widow from Oregon. "She married my brother," the woman said through tears. 6 months later, he was broke and depressed. "We thought it was a bad divorce. We didn't know it was a scam." Oliver listened, hands clenched. This wasn't just about his father anymore. That realization settled heavily on him. That night, Harrison knocked on Oliver's bedroom door. "I'm proud of you," he said. "But you don't have to be strong all the time." Oliver looked up. "If I stop now, will it all fall apart?" "No," Harrison said firmly. "It already changed. Because of you." Oliver considered that. Maybe strength didn't mean never breaking. Maybe it meant choosing not to disappear. The trial moved toward its end. And everyone could feel it. The final day of the trial arrived quietly. No reporters shouting this time. No buzz of anticipation. Just the low, tense murmur of people who already knew something irreversible was about to happen. Oliver sat beside his father, hands folded carefully in his lap. He wore the same jacket as before. Familiar. Predictable. He needed that today. Vanessa sat at the defense table, staring straight ahead. Marcus Delgado sat several seats away, his posture rigid, jaw clenched. They no longer whispered to each other. Whatever alliance they once had was gone. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Everyone sat. The courtroom held its breath. The judge adjusted her glasses and looked down at her notes. When she began to speak, her voice was steady, almost weary. "This court has heard extensive testimony," she said. "Audio recordings, financial records, expert analysis, and witness statements spanning multiple jurisdictions." She paused. This was not a crime of impulse. It was a calculated scheme designed to exploit trust, grief, and vulnerability. Oliver felt his chest tighten, not with relief, but with recognition. Someone was finally saying it out loud. The judge continued, addressing Vanessa directly. "Ms. Rodriguez, you presented yourself as a partner, a future spouse. In reality, you intended to strip Mr. Blackwell of his assets and remove his son from his home. You attempted to weaponize a child's diagnosis to undermine his credibility." Vanessa's face twitched. The judge turned her gaze to Marcus. "Mr. Delgado, you orchestrated and facilitated this scheme, recruiting participants and laundering funds across state lines." Marcus stared at the table. "The court finds both defendants guilty on all counts." The words landed softly. No gasp. No dramatic reaction. Just finality. Vanessa exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "I loved him." Harrison flinched but did not look at her. Marcus finally spoke, voice bitter. "She was sloppy. That's why we got caught." Vanessa snapped her head toward him. "You promised." The judge's gavel came down once. Enough. Sentencing followed, methodical and exact. Marcus Delgado received a lengthy federal sentence for conspiracy, wire fraud, and identity theft. The number barely registered for Oliver. Years were abstract to him. Vanessa's sentence came next. The judge hesitated slightly before speaking. "The court considers the emotional harm inflicted on a minor to be a significant aggravating factor." Oliver's fingers curled into the fabric of his jacket. Vanessa was sentenced to decades as well. As the numbers were read aloud, something strange happened. Oliver didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. When the judge finally adjourned the court, people stood slowly. Some whispered. Others simply left. Vanessa was handcuffed. As she was led past Oliver, she stopped. For the first time, she looked directly at him. Not with anger. With disbelief. "You ruined everything," she said quietly. Oliver met her gaze. His voice didn't shake. "No," he said. "You did." The guards pulled her forward. Outside, the sky was overcast. Heavy clouds hung low, pressing down on the city. Harrison stood beside Oliver on the courthouse steps. "It's over," Harrison said. Oliver nodded. "The trial is." Harrison studied his son's face. What does that mean? It means consequences don't end when the courtroom empties. Harrison exhaled slowly. He understood. They walked to the car together, neither speaking. That night, the house felt unusually silent. No tension. No threat. Just emptiness where chaos had been. Harrison poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to Oliver. I keep thinking, he said, voice rough, about how close I came to losing everything. Oliver took a sip. You didn't. Because of you. Oliver considered that carefully. Because you eventually listened. Harrison nodded. I will always listen now. Oliver believed him. The verdict was done. But healing had only just begun. The weeks after the verdict passed quietly. No cameras. No reporters. No courtrooms. Just time. Oliver returned fully to school, though normal had shifted slightly. Teachers spoke to him differently now. More carefully. Less dismissively. Some asked for his input in class, especially when discussions turned analytical. He didn't talk more than before. But when he did, people listened. At home, Harrison changed too. He stopped rushing through mornings. He asked questions and waited for answers instead of filling silence with assumptions. He let Oliver explain things in his own way, even when it took longer. Especially then. One Saturday morning, Harrison stood in the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee and 1 cup of tea. I scheduled therapy, he said casually. Oliver looked up from the table. For you. For me, Harrison nodded. I realized something. I spent years teaching you how to navigate a world that wasn't built for you, but I never learned how to slow down enough to see the world the way you do. Oliver considered that. It's quieter when you stop assuming. Harrison smiled. Exactly. They began taking walks together in the evenings. No destination. No agenda. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. Oliver liked that there was no pressure to fill the space. The lavender garden bloomed again that spring. One afternoon, Oliver sat on the porch steps with his journal, writing. I don't feel like a hero, he wrote. Heroes are loud. They get praised and then forgotten. I just noticed something wrong and didn't look away. He paused, tapping the pen lightly. Maybe that's enough. The world didn't suddenly become kinder. Some online comments still questioned him. Some people still used the word autistic like a warning label instead of a description. But something important had changed. Oliver no longer doubted himself when he noticed something off. And Harrison no longer dismissed quiet concern as imagination. One evening, months later, Harrison found Oliver reorganizing the evidence box in his closet. The recordings. The notes. The transcripts. You don't have to keep all that, Harrison said gently. I know, Oliver replied. But it reminds me that I can trust my mind. Harrison sat beside him on the floor. I trust it too. They closed the box together and slid it onto the shelf. That night, as Oliver lay in bed listening to the familiar hum of the house, he felt something rare. Peace. Not because nothing bad could happen again, but because now he knew this. Being different didn't make him weak. Being quiet didn't make him invisible. And seeing what others miss isn't a burden, it's a responsibility. And sometimes it saves everything. If you want more wedding drama, family secrets, and stories that make you whisper, no way, hit subscribe. Bridal Confessions has many more secrets to tell.